Everything Electric Canada in Vancouver is one of the biggest exhibition and discussion panel for electric cars and transportation in general. Although no Aptera vehicle was displayed at this year's show, it was present in several panel discussions. One of the panels discussed the challenge of rightsizing vehicles currently on the market. It also touches on different standards and buying behaviors in North America and Europe. Let's listen to it.
If you don't know what you mean by right-sizing, there is a trend that we see in the automotive industry towards larger vehicles. So increasing sizes both for passenger vehicles and for things like pickups. And the question is, why do we not see the shrinkflation that we see with everything else happening in vehicle sizes? Especially given the fact that we know that for each 100 kilogram of extra weight that a vehicle has, it produces around 2 grams of carbon extra per kilometer than it's used. And we also know that if we shift into smaller vehicles, we can save massive amounts of energy here. Other thing that, as a personal thing, I have another job where I'm a knee nurse, so I look at injury statistics, and seeing injury statistics for larger vehicles is obviously very concerning. The larger vehicles, SUVs, for example, produce around involved in around 15% of accidents, but were involved in around 22 to 25% of fatalities. So when you're looking at the size of vehicles, it's really important to think about these longer term impacts the size of vehicles is increasing. So we have this awesome panel of people to talk about both why it's happening, what we can do about it, and really just get into the nitty-gritty of this kind of challenging problem that's facing us as we try and transition to electric vehicles, which do have needs for their batteries. So if I can get us to just go down the line and introduce ourselves in 1 to 2 sentences.
Dave Haberman, Edward Electric Vehicle Specialist from Chemainus on Vancouver Island. You'll notice that I'm the only one that doesn't have a label underneath. Is there anybody here that has a neighborhood electric vehicle that they're using on the road right now? Oh, no, that's why I don't really have a job.
Thank you. I'm Ali Kazamsani. I'm the founder CEO of Embo Drive Systems. My focus in this conversation would be micromobility and right sizing. For me, doesn't have a limit. It can be right size the way you treat people right size.
Good afternoon. My name is David Adams. I'm President and CEO for Global Lawn Vehicles of Canada, which is a national trade association representing 60 NMB vehicle manufacturers in Canada.
Good afternoon. My name is Simon Upshaw. I'm manager of fleet operations and maintenance for the city of Victoria. Rightsizing, especially is promoting EV. It's moving from a worker vehicle that people have been used to using and trying to transition into something smaller that fits on the roads better, can drive down the street without getting into as many accidents, as well as you mentioned, with the safety aspect of it is incredibly important.
Thank you so much, everyone. So just a couple of quick ground rules. So at the end of this session, we will be having time for questions. If you can try and those questions to actually being questions, that's great, because we want to hear what these folks have to say. And I will give you a heads up a few minutes before the end, so you have time to think about what you want to ask, because I'm sure that what they say will spur some really fascinating thoughts. So I think if we start with you, David, what do you think is driving the trend towards larger vehicles?
Well, and Albert, let me first ask a question of the audience. How many people, if you want to raise your hand, drive an SDE or a pickup truck? It's a small one, so a number of you. That's interesting. Maybe just some statistics for the first part. So looking at the August sales statistics, and about 87% of the vehicles that were sold in Canada in August were sport utility vehicles or pickup trucks. If you wind the clock back August 2004, so 20 years ago, that number was about 44%, I believe. So there's been a significant increase in the number of trucks and SUVs. Why is that the case? One of the reasons that that's the case is because what's classified as a sport utility vehicle these days in some cases is very much a passenger car platform, just with a larger body on it. So that has to do with part of the equation. I think the other thing that is driving that is, frankly, consumer demands. Manufacturers aren't necessarily in the habit of building the types and styles of vehicles that consumers don't want to buy. So that's definitely a factor in the growth of vehicles as well. And the manufacturers find they have a role in that too. Sometimes, like you'll see in this videos of placing your vehicles in their model lineup, they will grow a vehicle up perhaps a little bit in size in order to place another smaller vehicle underneath that. So again, they flesh out their entire model line.
Thank you so much. So, Ali, do you have any thoughts on why right-sizing hasn't happened, why we still keep getting bigger vehicle?
Right-sizing to me means when we don't move 2 tons of metal box, just move a person of 80 kilogram weight or a box of groceries purchased from point A to point B. And to be we are 10 years in business and we're observing different attempts to fix this situation, and it's a chicken and egg situation in the micro-mobility space. You, all the audience here can witness, maybe you have a bunch of names in mind of businesses who attempted to put a new 3-wheeler or 4-wheeler small vehicle can be used as a personal transporter or as a Lewis E vehicle, and they all failed. The problem is both. You can't blame adoption of people or the industry which is not addressing the products, the market. It's the chicken and egg situation. And because right-sizing or micromobility is talking about niche use cases, the thing that an SUV can do in order to break all of those expectations into a smaller vehicle, you need to design and develop a specific vehicle to that use case. And that niche is a bad keyword in business development. Niche is lack of market and failure of business.
And one of the things that you touched on there with the niche and designing to a specific use case, I think that really speaks to something that you've been working on there, because you are interested in NEVs and LSVs, and that is a specific use case that has traditionally been met by niche automakers. I know that you've been trying to work towards building a pilot so that people can try out NEVs and experience them day to day. How has that been going, and what progress have you made?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of background for neighborhoods in British Columbia. So going back in 2008, the province of BC adopted NZEV neighborhood zero emission vehicle bylaw 24.06 of the BC Transportation Act. And it's very much the same that's been used across the U.S. So that started it out, and we would have thought that it would have been enough to kind of get things going. We've only got 161 municipalities in British Columbia that have adopted that bylaw, and that's been an issue. And along with the bylaw also comes a neighborhood NCV permit area. That's where you're allowed to drive them. Now, when I talk to a municipality and try to get them in, they say, well, Dave, if you don't have any vehicles, it's a little bit academic bringing it in right now. Of course, my answer is if you don't count the legislation in, it's pretty hard to bring the manufacturers in to be able to. So again, it goes back to your chicken and egg principle. So the best way for us to get ahead on it, Quebec has finished a pilot, Ontario's got one right now. British Columbia doesn't, although I'll touch on that a little bit later here. And that is the way to convince our municipalities to get going, bring it in. It's very easy to adopt it in. And then after that, we can start going to the manufacturers and start to bring in some of these amazing vehicles. We have a few here that are actually built right here in British Columbia.
So it sounds like we have this confluence of challenges. We have automakers who have platforms that they want to use for multiple purposes. We have a history of often things being quite niche. And then we have a challenging legislative environment in which you might have a solar vehicle that you want to bring to a place, you want to use in a place. And that can really be something that you can't get there just because of the legislative environment. And I imagine that with fleet vehicles, that can be a discussion that you have to have when you're trying to decide about the size of vehicles and what you need in your fleet. Is that something that has been an issue for you, son?
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges for, I guess, the North America market is that they like their big vehicles. So the consumers, people, they love their big vehicles. So they like the 2500s, they like for 3500s. So one of the things that we've worked on is as we transition to EV is done an evaluation of what the toolbox looks like. So take out everything from the vehicle, put it on the ground, let's look at the cubic space, and then go over what those 90% options are. What do you use 90% of the time, and what needs to be carried 90% of the time? And then look at the 10% in a different light. So then what we do is we put that together and we look at what the smallest vehicle we can fit and just maybe sometimes go one size up in here. We've been moving most of our 3500 type trucks down to F-150s. All over 2500 trucks down to F-150s. The problem that I have right now is that there isn't a nice compact pickup to move into. The Ford Lightning is hitting a very nice market, but there's no compact pickup really on the market yet that really fits that mark, except for maybe the Rivian, which is more of a sport utility style. But for fleet, the F-150 Pro model is a fleet truck, and it's they've hit a nice mark on it. So we're excited to move most of our trucks into that transition, and it fits the toolbox. And that's that 90% that we're trying to fit it in.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I understand the Ford have delayed the Maverick as well, so it's going to be a Maverick one new vehicle. Yeah, but it looked like you had something you wanted to and
well, maybe just a bit of one thing then, Simon said. I think that's the reality. I think a lot of people go to purchase their vehicles, they're purchasing their vehicle based on that 2 weeks vacation they're going to take in a year where they may need to do a boat or a camper or something like that. And so, well, you can find another alternative for that 2 week scenario. You don't even necessarily purchase that. But that tends to be what consumers do because they don't want that inconvenience of having to make that call-in liberation, which is a challenge. And I want to go back to one of the things that Dave said as well about the regulatory environment, because that is pivotal to some of the getting quality of choices on the load. And then the absence of an appropriate regulatory environment, what you end up having is a bit of the Wild West where you have the micro-mobility devices available, but they're not regulated. And so it ends up being, these devices on sidewalks, on the street, wherever, people not wearing good safety equipment, not knowing the rules of the load, how they should be operated, and then it just become of those L scooter, almost a mega device for the adoption of sedans, micro-mobility devices, because it is just perceived as the Wild West and no regulation.
So actually, that kind of leads into a question I'd love to ask Ali is, have you experienced challenges with the regulatory environment around things like the utility investment bit?
The regulation aspect there, we have a LSE regulation already adopted by most municipalities and can be used to allow smaller 4-wheeler NAC1 or 3-wheeler NAC1s on the roads to be used as personal transporter. Instead of the 2-ton, it can carry 200 kilogram or 400 kilogram vehicle, still get the convenience of whatever that vehicle provides you for shopping, for commuting, for taking kids to school. But again, the problem here is the thing that we have observed is the industry. It is the chicken and egg issue in this industry, and the approach that we are taking to break through that chicken and egg is suggesting the platform solution as the product. So the concept of UPT that they have introduced in this show, we unveiled it to the FNAC yesterday, is basically an attempt to break through this problem and issue chicken and egg and offer mass customization for the industry. Mass customization allows you to mass produce components, but without necessity to mass produce the products. The products need to still be niche. The products that are built based on mass produced components. So this is the solution that I believe, as one of the industry leaders in this space, that is going to be the future, and that's it.
So one of the interesting things that we see is that in Europe there has been a significant rise in those medium minis and smaller vehicles that the electric quadricycle is often the term applied to them because they don't have to be sub stringent standards and sub stringent crash requirements as larger vehicles, and they're used primarily in cities and just little very edge of rural areas. And we haven't really seen that growth here yet, and it's really interesting to think about how what you're doing and they can influence that position. But my questioning, right, this moment is, do you think that there should be government incentives, government changes to the requirements to make that use case stronger?
Well, I'm going to say that, in the case of the province of BC, I'm going to argue that they've already done their job. So it's been handed down to the municipalities. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's going to break bits right down on neighborhood electrics on that specific bylaw. And this goes right across North America because it all came from originally from the free trade agreement. So the bylaw states that vehicle goes no more than 14 kilometers down. There is no limit on size. There is no limit on weight. And so that means that every single electric vehicle that you see driving on the road today can be an NEV with one single change. Drop the speed to a limit of 40 kilometers per hour. And what this means is that Tesla Cybertruck or light vehicle, everything that's out there, has the opportunity of being shrunk down to an NEV by limiting that speed. And now your battery, if you wouldn't have to put like they're saying, 30, 50 kilometers a day, you don't need a 100 kilowatt hour battery back. Maybe you can get by with 20, packing along a lot of weight. And so that's part of this, as we say, right-sizing. So that's the one thing I think that's very, very important. We have to break that, that as soon as you talk neighborhoods, that you're talking small. Here in North America, we just start in small vehicles.
David, do you have any thoughts on government plans or government, I suppose, legislation and then incentivize smaller vehicle production?
Well, I guess what I would say is that there's, I think a couple of weeks ago in the United States, a congressperson introduced legislation around this issue, more from a personal safety perspective, pedestrian, cyclists. This reality is that when the large indemnity contributes more fatalities and accidents, spending the increase has been something like over 80% as it was gone over the last 15, 20 years. So that's the impetus, I think, for looking at some sort of legislation that would start to restrict the size of vehicles. Having said that, I don't know, maybe the audience can tell us, but I'm not sure how many individuals are interested in from being dictated to what type of vehicle they should or shouldn't buy. I mean, we always see this in the automotive industry with circumstances like the zero-emission vehicle mandates that are in place, pushing everybody towards electric. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of electric vehicles. I've driven a couple in my history as well. It's superior technology. But I think there's a way to move that, the more restricted, from my perspective, on greenhouse gas emissions reduction. I think that's something that we can all beyond, and it's part of the rationale for working out what's the best device or building product to get you where you need to go.
Is that something that, Ali, that you will feel that you can fit in, and as a company and as a concept, the idea of making sure that people have access to the right vehicle at the right size to meet their needs regardless of the regulatory environment?
I didn't answer this.
So do you think that the concept of smaller utility vehicles is something that, regardless of regulatory environment, you can see people getting behind?
Yes, of course. And BC is the right place to talk this concept, because there is a lot of action in this part of the world about sustainability and efficiency that I see in the visual. I've lived in different continents. I have that experience. I haven't seen that much, enough of this much of passion anywhere else in the world. This is the right part of the world to talk about these things. And adoption will not be a problem if the availability and regulation problem solves.
Thank you. So we have just under 10 minutes left. Do we have voice Joe?
Hi, and jumped on that. So I kind of disagreed with it. One of the things around what is being made and what's available. Some car makers not even building the cars, and they're only focused on oversized SUVs. I went downstairs. I was trying to find. No, I want to pilot small electric vehicle. And sorry to probably once finished. A real car size, something I found that the Golf Mini thing. And I'm even seeing vehicles that have gotten bigger to get electrified. And they're blaming pedestrian safety. They're saying the hood needs to be taller because if they hit a pedestrian, they need to fall over. And I'm like, well, it's too giant green. So I'm still wondering, does government need to step in? Does government need to regulate? Because the interested want, they only give us what they want to sell. We're seeing these expensive more. Yeah. I see as the SUVs get taller, and minivans get taller as well, their headlights go up. So now we're being blinded as pedestrians by these taller vehicles, and there should be some regulation. Put it to the panel.
So I'm going to guess, David, you have some thoughts on that. And I think it's also really interesting as a point to think about is that the European crash standards and the American crash standards, while they're very similar in many ways, they have a lot of really important minor differences, which often means that a vehicle that would pass crash standards in Europe would want different airbag placement, different reinforcement to pass crash standards in the US or in Canada. And that means that automakers, I think, are a little reticent to bring smaller vehicles over, but I don't know if you have other thoughts about that.
No, you're right. The standards are different in Europe compared to North America. North America, in a lot of ways, has some more stringent standards, and that becomes a problem when companies are looking to validate vehicles for the North American market. So we can say, well, Canada is maybe different from the U.S., and this is sort of our history in a lot of ways where, you can tell by the lack of my hair and the color that I'm old, I've been around for a bit, but it used to be that our market was a lot more sort of European, so we had to add more of a European flavor to our market and tended to have more of a European model mix as well. Largely, what we had came to is dictated by the United States, what the United States market wants, because it can't justify it from a market basis to bring a model specifically for the Canadian market. Companies have done that a little bit in the past. Smart was a good example in the past, whereas it's Smart here, but a few other vehicles very smart were not done because cost prohibitive.
It has been, for those who don't know, lives in the United States, I'm very sorry, but it has been really nice being up here and seeing this micros, because they're I'm British background, and seeing micros again, oh, look at them, they're so cheap. Does anyone else have anything they want to add?
Yeah, I'd love to toss in and just help answer this gentleman's question down here. There's a 1, 2, 3 solution. You mind me asking which municipality you live in? In where? Vancouver. Wow. While you're waiting out of the gate. The 1, 2, 3. 1, bring in the bylaw. to identify the area they can drive. And this is just revert electrics, because that's what we need stuff to hear off. And then what's that third one?
Europe has 70 kilometer NEV, something like that. It makes one viable, and 40 is not viable. 70 in order to do it, as they are sending
Over the order that we sorted that wave's got, but we have further one.
Put it into the museum.
it doesn't work.
No, I was just sitting here at 7 running, driving around.
It doesn't work.
Somebody else in that, whether they're watering the plants or, picking up garbage to the park, I can answer the public's question. When they see these vehicles on the road, then they start to understand how it just is secure to the public.
Parking stone.
That's where I believe the house to start. It's all at those are kind of like, well, it can't in those. And I talk to lots of this, the design under one, let me one more. So just something to kind of take away with. And the other two elements in there are the
Bikes.
The issue
It has an enclosed structure as a dash,
and I think need set on everything. It's necessary just in case this is what.
and how those regulatory hurdles are.
Illustrating this.
None of this work.
The Suzuki Hayabusa will break every single speed limit in North America in first gear. This is a super bike, along with about 25 of them on there. And if you think that you're worried about safety, then why have we legislated or allowed these bikes all around the world? And we're coming in worried about a little vehicle that goes 40 kilometers an hour, and it's got far more safety that's in there. By the way, I'm a sport bike enthusiast, so I don't want to change the rules, but I'm just saying that there's what my response is for whatever it's worth.
I think you want to have something, Simon.
Very quickly, I'll just mention a couple of things. As one, I completely agree. Walking around, what I've noticed is that we're catering to a very high-end market and most of the EV market, and we're not really seeing. There's a gap in between, right? There's the SUV market. There's that compact car market, and I'll just use Chevy Bolt. The Chevy Bolt, we have a bunch in our fleet. It's a great vehicle. It's got great range, 320 kilometers, and Chevy doesn't sell it anymore. And it's a shame. It's a nice, small, compact vehicle that works for municipal fleets. We've got two of them that do our parking ambassadors that run around and, they've got cameras on them so they pick up license plates. We've got a few other that run for a buy mod. The other thing that we are looking at as well is I haven't seen the booth here again today, but SC cartons, which is made out of burden. They build a low-speed vehicle that's insured by ICBC, and they're a perfect little vehicle that we're starting to look at to bring into our fold. We have one already, but we're bringing in a few others for our parking group. They used to ride around on Honda Ruckuses but talking about safety, right? Honda Ruckus riding around, and especially in our falls with the leaves and everything on the ground, they're not very safe to be on the road. So putting them in a small, low-speed vehicle is much better. The biggest problem also is the cost when you make those changes, jumping up. But there needs to be more of that small compact. I talked about the light-duty truck or the small and compact truck. Great example. It's just not in the market yet, which is unfortunate.
Okay, so we have selected one more really quick question. I'm sorry, I didn't realize there'd be so many questions, but we will be over at the side and able to take some more. And if we can have one more quick question.
I hate to meet up on the big vehicles again, but that Hover X3 down there, 205 kilowatt of capacity battery, I drive a Chevy Bolt. That is more than 3 times the capacity of a Chevy Bolt, when 3 times the cost of a Chevy Bolt. The battery pack's curb weight, my Bolt's curb weight is less than that of just the battery pack of that vehicle. It's about 250 NBO bike batteries rear capacity. Given these vehicles are very expensive, one person I know who owns one of those, it's his third vehicle. A lot of consumer vehicles are parked 9% of the time. That is 3 delivery vehicles, medium wing freight vehicles that could be running around all the time. That's a lot of vehicles not on the road because we've invested all that lithium in that one vehicle. Do you think regulators need to step up and do something about this insanity, and what tools we have to dissuade the market from leading us down these paths where we invest all this carbon in building these huge vehicles only to have them parked in some guy's third garage?
And the stuff to and all.
maybe to respond to that, I think you're right, and in the sense that, briefly, I think we do a lot better in terms of deploying electric vehicles to put those vehicles into fleets, because those are the vehicles that are on the road all the time, and those are the organizations where they have the mentality that they're looking at the overall cost of ownership, life cost of ownership. So that's a great place to get exposure to vehicles as well. And I would say that I agree with them, and back to your point about the large vehicle, that's also badly. Our perspective as a trade association has always been about greenhouse gas emissions reduction and how do we achieve that in the most optimal way. And, to your point, when you look at a 200 kilowatt hour battery, you put, I don't know how many hybrids on the road, but a lot of hybrids on the road, and achieve far more greenhouse gas emissions reduction by deploying hybrids. So what I would say is it's not a silver bullet solution, it's a silver buckshot solution, and we need to look at all these different technologies and ways to further bring down gas emissions.
Yes, I wanted to add this fact that BC is, for some reason, following the rest of North America, although they have a different perspective and culture and viewpoints. And that should change to address this problem. We can't ban cars with big batteries. That's not the solution. Someone wants to buy it, but where's my alternative? You alternate to ride a small vehicle with a lower battery, lower weight, and more efficient. And that's again the industry problem, that there's no many companies or even the automakers are not interested to offer small vehicles in this market, because we are considered and perceived as a part of the Canada market, was a part of the North American market for a company like Volkswagen. To me, the solution would be the governments and municipalities to start encouraging people and businesses to bring this scale of cars or mobility devices to the picture by being the first to use. Like as Simon just mentioned, like be the first city to utilize for your police, for your like search, utility, urban utility, urban services, and that people see more and more of these vehicles, and these more vehicles will be more and more available with more customer service and sales, and that should be the avenue that we has to get to get one thing.
Thank you. So I think we are more than actually numbers. Thank you to.
That's almost irrelevant when they brought a smaller vehicle.
And other questions we posted aside her to get up shortly. So if you still want to ask your questions, come up and grab us. And thank you so much to the panelists. Can I get a quick round of applause for our panelists?